Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Hashirama and Mito give all chakra to Naruto. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by RANDOMWRITER21 and link in the description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1. Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha, founders of Konoha, the strongest shinobi to walk the land since the Sage of Six Paths, a strong bond broken in one epic battle. Hashirama stood 6'1", had tan skin, dark eyes and waist-length black hair styled in a center-parted fringe that framed his face. He wore dark red armor over a simple black suit. The armor was constructed from numerous metal plates formed into multiple protective guards along his body, the chest, shoulders, thighs and forearms. Each collar of his shoulder guards had the Senju symbol emblazoned on them. Madara Uchiha stood 5'9", was fair-skinned, had black eyes and waist-length black, spiky hair with shoulder-length bangs on either side of his face. Like Hashirama, he too wore maroon armor, but underneath was a purple suit. On his back was an orange war fan emblazoned with 3 red tomo on it, like the Sharingan. Madara defected from Konoha after being abandoned by the Uchiha clan and returned years later to challenge Hashirama in battle. They did so in a place that would later be known as the Valley of the End. The battle would push both legends to their breaking point. Between Madara summoning Kyuubi, the nine-tailed fox, and Hashirama's wood release, the battle waged into the night, scarring the land permanently. Eventually the battle came to a close with Madara standing over a fallen Hashirama, but due to his weakened state, he failed to notice it was a clone. Madara lurched forward and coughed out blood and looked down to see Hashirama's katana through his chest. With a shocked expression, Madara Uchiha slowly fell to the ground after the blade was taken out. Hashirama won, but at a heavy cost. Hashirama stumbled over to Mito Uzumaki, whom used her Fuinjutsu to seal the Kyuubi within herself once Madara lost control. Mito, who was Hashirama's wife, was a beautiful woman who stood at 5'6" and had long red hair with pupilless eyes. Her hair was arranged in buns with hairpins in them and 3 clips in the front. Mito wore an elaborate high-collared kimono with the Uzushi Agakure symbol on the back of the obi which was tied around her waist. A diamond mark was on her forehead and 2 Fuinjutsu tags hung from the buns of her hair. "It's done, Mito, my love, the bond between Madara and I forever broken." Mito smiled sadly, taking Hashirama's offered hand to help her to her feet. Hashirama brushed a stray hair off Mito's face, then kissed her lightly on the cheek. Due to her sealing the Kyuubi, it put a strain on Mito's body, thus making her fall asleep due to exhaustion. Hashirama looks back at Madara's body then towards Konoha and smiled. "Our bond may be broken, old friend, but I cannot dwell in the past as the future is much brighter. I am truly sorry for what fate had to befall you, Madara. May Kami take your soul and rest in peace." Hashirama took a deep breath, then jogged to Konoha despite his many injuries. If he stayed any longer, he would have saw Madara start to move and attempt to get up. "Damn you, Senju. You have bested me, but my life is not over. Mark my words, I will return, and when that day comes, only hell awaits you." Madara got on his hands and knees but coughed up blood as a result, the stab wound more severe than he once thought. Eventually, Madara managed to stand and used the last of his energy for Kamui to teleport to a hideout he has used before. Konoha hours later. It was dawn, countless villagers and shinobi waited for their first Hokage and Mito Uzumaki to return. Everyone was nervous, they all feared that both wouldn't return, yet had a sense of confidence, knowing that the two would be alright. A shinobi spotted someone coming and carrying someone in their arms. He instantly recognized who it was, albeit the missing armor and wounds. "It's the Shadame and his wife, they have returned." Cheers go out, people hugged each other, and shinobi started to rush towards their Hokage to render aid. Hashirama heard these cheers and smiled, then looked at Mito, who also had a smile on her face. "It seems the will of fire continued to burn even as I battled. Shadame-sama, do you need assistance?" "That can wait, I must greet my people to let them know that I am alright and fit to lead this village." "But sir, your injuries." Tabarama interrupted and came to his brother's defense. Tabarama was 6 foot tall, a fair-skinned man with white shaggy hair, dark-colored eyes and 3 red markings on his face, 1 under each of his eyes and 1 on his chin. He wore armor like Hashirama, but it was blue with a white fur collar. This was accompanied with sandals and a hapuri. Tabarama was a stoic individual and had a habit of crossing his arms. "Shinobi-san," Tabarama stated calmly. "If my brother so wishes to ensure the villagers that he is relatively unharmed, then he may do so. Come brother, let us greet Konoha together." Hashirama nods and both walk to the village gates to see smiling villagers and shinobi. It was at this time Mito woke up. The villagers cheered, but it soon stopped after Hashirama raised his hand in the air. "Do not fear for my injuries, people of Konoha, they are of no concern to me. I am just happy to see that my village still stands." You, people of Konoha, are what make up the parts of my body. You believe in me and in turn I believe in you. This is what it means to be Hokage, this is what will make Konoha prosper. Another round of cheers go out, some even follow Hashirama, Tobirama and Mito to the hospital to make sure their Hokage got there in one piece. Once they got there, Hashirama's first son, Kenta, greeted them with tears in his eyes. He was 5 years old, stood at 3'3", and had short black hair and dark eyes. He wore a simple black shirt, blue pants as well as sandals. He also wore a blue headband with the Senju clan symbol on it. Hashirama smiled and ruffled Kenta's hair. I will be alright, my son, my injuries are of no concern to me, all that matters is this village and your future. Kenta sniffled and hugged Hashirama's right leg, I thought you died. Mito made her presence known. Aw, I know dear, but everything will be alright, how about we get some ramen after dad and I rest, huh? Yes. You're the best mom. Tobirama and everyone else get a good chuckle while they are led to their rooms. It was here that Tobirama and Hashirama had a private chat, while Mito and Kenta were together in a separate room. Tobirama sighed and sat on the bed Hashirama was recovering in. His injuries was only chakra exhaustion, some cracked ribs, and deep to minor lacerations. The armor helped protect his body. So, Madara is gone then? I'm unsure, my brother. I struck a grievous blow, but like all Uchiha, they somehow find a will to live, may it be the will of fire that I often preach or some other motive. Silence permeated the room for a couple minutes before Tobirama spoke up about Kenta. Your son, so full of life like we once were, now, we only lay destruction in our wake. Whenever you live, there will always be war. Hashirama sadly chuckles at that fact. Plus, who are you calling old, we are both in our early 30s. Tobirama shrugged his shoulders, then looks out the window to Hashirama's face on the Hokage monument. Clans still clash even though villages exist now, even worse is that relations between them are strained at best. Tobirama turns and looks into his older brother's eyes. Will Kenta be prepared for when he comes of age? Hashirama closed his eyes, I will teach my son to become my legacy, all my children, even the villagers will grow strong under my guidance. Thinking of giving Kenta a brother or sister, eh? Though I cannot blame you for if Kenta falls on the battlefield another shall take his place. Hashirama nodded and silence permeated the room again. After a while Tobirama stood up and patted his brother on the shoulder. I must be off, and don't worry about your chair, I will keep it warm for you. Think of it as practice when you take up the mantle, brother. By the way, how's that paperwork coming along? Tobirama scowled and stormed out the door, leaving behind a laughing Hashirama. Mito and Kenta came in soon after with smiles on their faces. Kenta quickly jumped on top of Hashirama, making him wince in slight pain, but he had been dealt worse. Train me daddy so I can become as strong as you. Mito smiles, now sweetie, let father have his rest. Kenta pouts but smiled after Hashirama ruffled his hair. So, you want to be as strong as me, huh? Kenta nods. Do you promise to give it your all and not question Mito or my guidance? Another nod, can you tell me what you will do with this training? I want to protect this village and show everyone that I am as strong as you. Mito shook her head with a smile, power isn't everything son, it's your actions that make people respect you. Hashirama nodded, protecting the village is a mighty goal, but say you had a brother or sister, what then? I would protect them too. Hashirama and Mito looked at each other with a smile, both mentally filed a decision on when they would have their next child. After a brief moment of silence, Mito motioned for Kenta to come so Hashirama could get some rest. The door clicked closed leaving the Hokage to ponder on the battle he recently had. As the days turned into months and eventually years, Konoha prospered and grew strong, though tensions still remained high between villages. Kenta grew up and learned how to unlock his chakra, finding his affinity which was earth and water. Sadly, he did not have the treasured bloodline of the Senju, the wood release. He did, however, have Mito's knack at sealing which astonished Tobirama, Hashirama, and Mito. Kenta also learned the Senju Taijutsu style, as well as Kenjutsu from Mito. He was now 8 years old and stood at 3'9" with shoulder-length black hair. He wore the same type of outfit he did 3 years earlier. And this time, Hashirama and Mito decided it was time to give Kenta what he wanted. 9 months later here we are in the present with Mito giving birth to their baby boy. Hospital. Mito had a hospital gown on and followed the doctor's advice so that their baby boy would come out okay. Kenta was currently outside the room waiting for his signal to come in. Mito was holding Hashirama's right hand for comfort. That's it Mito, push, breathe, then relax, keep on repeating that. The doctor said. Mito screams out in slight pain while crushing Hashirama's hand. There was an audible crack in the room which signified a broken hand. Mito, honey, do you mind not crushing my hand? How about we switch places and then see how you feel? Hashirama sighed and continued to let Mito crush his hand while the contractions came again. Mito has been in labor for about 30 minutes now and finally the doctor saw the crown. He's crowning, you're almost there Mito, push. A couple more pushes later, and the cries of a child are heard. The doctor quickly cut the umbilical cord, then got a towel to dry the baby off. After doing so, he wrapped the baby in a blanket and handed it to Mito, who cradled it within her arms. The baby had a small tuft of black hair, black eyes, and had fair skin. "Aw, what shall we name him?" Mito asked Hashirama. "How about we let Kenta decide, it's what he wanted after all." Mito nodded and Hashirama opened the door, leading Kenta inside. "Say hello to your baby brother Kenta." Kenta smiled and took the baby from Mito's outstretched arms. It was here the baby stopped crying and opened its eyes, making a giggling sound. "Hello brother, now what shall we name you?" Kenta ponders, then smiled as he looked into Mito's eyes. "Naruto, yes, that sounds like a good name. Do you like that, Naruto?" Naruto giggles and managed a small smile which made everyone happy in the room. "Maelstrom, you named him after Yuzushi Agakure, my home, thank you Kenta." Kenta handed Naruto back to Mito where the baby and she fell asleep. Hashirama patted Kenta on the back. Kenta, let the two rest while the doctor takes care of things." "Before that, why Naruto? I know it wasn't just because of Mito's home." Kenta smiled and walked out of the room with his father. Once outside, both leaned against the wall. "I just have a feeling that Naruto will amount to great things, father. I have a feeling that a Maelstrom will be needed in the future to set things right." "Wise words, my son. So, do you care for some ramen?" Kenta gasped, "But what about your Hokage duties?" Hashirama ruffled Kenta's hair, making said boy laugh. "Family comes before duty, son, remember that if you ever become Hokage one day." Kenta nodded and both walk out of the hospital. It would be a couple days later when Mito returned home with Naruto in her arms. Couple days later. As Mito was about to leave her hospital room, a knock on the door is heard. She told the person they could enter. It was Sasuke Sarutobi. In his hands was a child in a blanket. He had a tuft of dark brown hair and dark eyes like Naruto. Sasuke was about the same age as Hashirama and stood at 6 foot tall. He had dark brown hair, fair-colored skin, and was wearing a simple black suit with Jetta sandals. "Ah, Sarutobi-san, how nice to see you. I take it that's your little boy. How is your wife, by the way?" Sasuke sighed. "She died after childbirth, I'm afraid. Hiruzen here is the one that gives me the strength to live on." Mito sadly frowned, then walked over and gave Sasuke a hug which he returned. After they broke apart, Mito grabbed Naruto from the bed and turned to face Sasuke. "I'm truly sorry for your loss, Sarutobi-san. If you need help with Hiruzen, then Hashirama and I will be glad to help." Sasuke nods and walked over to get a closer look at Naruto. When that happened, both parents watched Hiruzen and Naruto reach out toward each other with their chubby hands. Hiruzen and Naruto looked at each, then started to giggle childishly, which made Sasuke and Mito smile. "Aw, looks like Naruto-kun wants to spend some time with Hiruzen." Sasuke got a gleaming in his eyes. "If it's not too much to ask, Mito-san, would Hashirama-sama be willing to mentor Hiruzen when he comes of age?" "I don't see why not. He may be stern, but he is great with kids. Just look how Kenta turned out." Sasuke nodded simply, and both left the room heading back to their own homes, but not without Sasuke saying goodbye to his wife one last time. Senju Estate. Mito walked in and looked to her right to see Hashirama sitting on the couch in the family room, happily sipping his tea. Upon seeing Mito, he put his cup on the table in front of him and walked over. "Come to daddy, Naruto." Mito handed Naruto over to him, where he instantly started crying. This made Hashirama chuckle nervously. "It seems Naruto isn't used to you yet." Mito sighed. On a different note, Sasuke Sarutobi's wife passed away after giving birth to Hiruzen. Hashirama gave Naruto back to Mito, where he instantly calmed down. This brought a chuckle out of the Hokage, though that chuckle turned into a sad sigh. "The funeral will be held in a couple days then." He turned to look out the nearby window to look toward the backyard where Kenta was going through his Kenjutsu katas. "I take it Sasuke wants me to look after Hiruzen and mentor him." "Hi." Oh, Naruto and Hiruzen already started their friendship off. Both reached for each other in the hospital. Hashirama chuckled lightly, then turned toward Mito. "I must get back to the office. Tobirama is keeping my seat warm." "You just like seeing him get frustrated over the paperwork." "Perhaps." Mito shook her head in mirth, then sniffed and recoiled a little when she noticed the smell was coming from Naruto. "You little stinker, you." Naruto just giggled without a care in the world. It would be an interesting time for the Senju as Naruto grew up. Hokage office. Tobirama was frustrated. Well, pissed would be a better word. Why? The paperwork seemed to multiply by an infinite level, and he was sure that his brother did this to him purpose. The wooden floor to his right ripples and Hashirama soon appeared wearing his Hokage attire, which consisted of a brown and white hat and Haori over a full-length brown and white gown, along with a simple red headband. "So, how's that paperwork coming along?" Tobirama gained a tick mark. "I hate you." Hashirama laughed, then quickly turned serious. "Any news of the increasing tensions between villages?" "It's worse than we thought. War is imminent. When it will commence is beyond me." Hashirama pinched the bridge of his nose, then looked out the window towards the Hokage monument. I shared the tailed beasts to equalize power and believed in the hope that peace could be achieved between nations. I see that my actions were flawed, but the past is something I cannot dwell in as the future is much brighter. Brother. Tobirama starts out. War is imminent, how is the future brighter? It looks damn bleak to me. Hashirama looks at his brother, and that is what is different about you and I. Well, you are a realist, I am more of an optimist of sorts. I see the actions we take as a step toward a better future. The past is a dark place that is meant to be locked up, but the future is like a vast meadow filled with flowers. The one that is picked will determine a certain course of events. Nothing is said in the office for a while, but eventually Hashirama speaks again. Naruto and Hiruzen have already attempted to become friends. I foresee both doing wondrous things with me as their mentor. And Kenta? Hashirama smiled, him too. Tobirama stands and looks his brother in the eyes. I will be off, good luck with the paperwork. He walked out of the door as the Hokage sits in his chair doing the task that every Kage hated. He just couldn't wait until Hiruzen and Naruto were 5 years old. That would be the year that their training would begin. Time skip. 5 years later. Naruto and Hiruzen were quite the handful as they were growing up, and the two were difficult to separate when together. Naruto started to look like a carbon copy of Hashirama with his tanned skin and short black hair. He now stood at 3'4" and was wearing a version of the outfit Kenta did. Hiruzen now stood at 3'3" and was wearing a simple black suit. Kenta looked after them both for a while, but when they were 3 years old Kenta, who was 11 at the time, headed off to Yuzu for extra training. He never returned as he decided to become a seal master, which would take a while to do. In the elemental nations, tensions were still increasing, and small skirmishes have started between villages, but no major loss of life had been reported. Most of the skirmishes were petty disputes about land ownerships. Konoha has been absent from these skirmishes and focused on getting people through the academy, a place which Naruto and Hiruzen would not see due to them being taught by Hashirama himself. Currently, Naruto and Hiruzen are in the backyard of the Senju Estates playing tag, but a couple minutes later their game ended due to Hashirama coming to greet them. Hey Two-san. Hashirama smiles, Naruto, Hiruzen, today we are going to start your training, but chakra will come next year as you are too young. Now, can you take your shirts off please? Both boys do as told. After they did, Hashirama took out 2 seals and applied them to Naruto and Hiruzen's chest. He added chakra to them and set the seals to level 1 of 10. Both boys dropped to the ground instantly. Why do I feel so heavy? Naruto asks, then looks at the seal on his stomach, trying to decipher it but couldn't. Those are of your mother's design, Naruto, she calls them gravity seals. There are a total of 10 levels, you two are at level 1, and by time you are 12, I expect you to be at level 10. So these seals weigh our bodies down, making training harder. Hiruzen ponders aloud, making the Hokage nod. Yes, now stand up, put your shirts back on, and give me 50 push-ups, sit-ups, and a lap around the village. After that, I will go into Taijutsu, you will practice your katas in between breaks. Since you are still young we will train until lunchtime, hop to it. Hiruzen and Naruto nod and get to training. Both wanted to surpass their fathers and show the next generation what hard work and determination led to. After this, which took about an hour, both Naruto and Hiruzen were tired but knew that Taijutsu was next. Hashirama smiled at the two in front of them as he was impressed with their determination. Great job you two. Now, Naruto, I will be teaching your clan's Taijutsu, while Hiruzen will be taught his clan style, but first. Sasuke interrupted as he arrived via Shunshin. Yeah, I know. Hiruzen, my boy, come here, I have a present to give you. Hi Two-san. Everyone watched as Sasuke bit his thumb, then initiated the summoning jutsu. A puff of smoke appeared which soon left to show Enma, the king of the monkey summons. Enma's body and tail was covered by white fur which protruded from his sleeves and pants. He had long white hair that reached his back, long sideburns and a goatee. He wore a black suit with mesh armor underneath, over which he wore a sleeveless kimono shirt with white fur trimmings and markings reminiscent of tiger stripes, which was held closed by a sash. Ah, Sasuke, so good to see you again. Enma looks at a slightly afraid Hiruzen. So this is your little chimp, hey kid, what's your name? Hiruzen was reluctant at first, but his father told him to continue. Hiruzen Sarutobi, Monkey-sama. Son, this is King Enma of the Monkey Summons. He and I agreed that you will be the one to carry on the clan's contract. Do you accept this offer and vow to never abuse the privileges as a summoner? Hiruzen thought for a moment then nods, I accept, but I don't know how to access my chakra yet, I don't find myself worthy. Enma chuckles then pats Hiruzen's shoulders, and that kid is why Sasuke and I agreed for you to sign the contract. Now, hold out your right arm. Hiruzen nods and does as told, then soon screamed in pain as Enma bit down. When Enma released his hold, a kanji for monkey was on Hiruzen's arm. Baka monkey, that hurt. Deal with it, well my work here is done Sasuke, until later my friend. Sasuke nodded while Enma went back to his world. Come Hiruzen, we have Taijutsu practice to do. As they left the Senju estates, Hashirama noticed Naruto's glum mood. What's wrong Naruto? Naruto crossed his arms and pouted, why don't I get a summoning contract? Hashirama noticed that Naruto's downcast mood made the flowers and trees around the backyard wilt slightly. Could it be, could Naruto have the wood release? I guess we will have to wait and see until next year. Naruto, my son, don't feel down. We Senju don't have a contract as we are powerful on our own. With your Uzumaki blood you have high regeneration as well as a vast chakra pool. The Senju also has a high amount of chakra, which means that the chances of you getting exhaustion are slim. Naruto cocked his head in confusion as he was only 5 years old and had trouble understanding what all that meant. Hashirama motioned for Naruto to follow him into the kitchen. Once there he grabbed a knife which scared Naruto to a great degree. Hold out your hand Naruto and let me show you. Naruto, after some trepidation, decided to trust his father and held out his right hand, palm up. Naruto winced as the knife sliced across his skin, but became amazed at how the cut sizzled and healed, no scar was present. That, Naruto, is regeneration. This means that your physical exercises will have to increase more often than Hiruzen. You will see what I mean when we access your chakra next year. What about sealing, Kinjutsu? Hashirama ruffles Naruto's hair, Mito will take you to Yuzu when she feels you are ready, you will learn a lot there. Naruto gasped and started jumping in excitement, maybe I can see Kenta again. Easy there Naruto, now we got a couple hours until noon, let's head back outside so I can teach you our clan's Taijutsu. Time skip 1 year. Naruto and Hiruzen was in the backyard of the Senju estate engaged in a Taijutsu spar. While this was going on Hashirama, Mito, and Tobirama chatted about their progress. The other clans were improving as well, the Uchiha, Hyuga, Yamanaka, Akamichi, Nara, Inuzuka and Abiram. Naruto and Hiruzen are progressing well brother, do you think that we are pushing them a little too hard? Tobirama said. Not at all, in fact I push them hard as they will be our trump card in the war to come. The success in their training will give Konoha a bright future. Mito slapped Hashirama upside the head, you will not be using those two as weapons for war Hashirama, you hear me? Ma, you misunderstood me my love. Hiruzen has the monkey summons, and I suspect that our son has the wood release. Tobirama and Mito's eyes bulged in shock, explain. Hashirama shook his head, well Naruto got bummed at not getting a summoning contract last year, and the plants around him started to wilt today is the day where the truth will come out. Tobirama cleared his throat, if I may brother, there are 2 students in the academy showing progress, and I would like to have them and Hiruzen as a team if possible. Oh? Do tell. Tamura Mitokado and Kaharu Udatane. I will have to check their files then and watch them as they progress through the academy. Honey, if Naruto does have the wood release how are you going to train him? I don't want my garden ruined. Yes, Mito had a garden in the backyard. It was small, but it contained various rare flowers, and she constantly made sure that her precious, as she called it, was alright. Hashirama found out how attached Mito was to her garden when he accidentally stepped on one of the flowers while she was preening. Needless to say, Hashirama slept on the couch that night. Naruto, Hiruzen front and center. Both pauses their fight and rushed over to Hashirama with a smile on their face. Before they could say anything, Hashirama pulled 2 slips of chakra paper from his Hokage robes. The boys grabbed these and knew what to do as they unlocked their chakra in the beginning of the year. Go on, show me what you got. Hiruzen went first and added chakra to his paper which first turned into dust, the particles then burst into flames. Hashirama was impressed. Well Hiruzen, having 2 affinities is rare for someone your age. Fire and earth which are equally strong and gives a good offense and defense which we will work on, go on son, try yours. Naruto nodded and put chakra through his paper, what happened next surprised everyone watching. One half of the paper became soggy to the point it almost disintegrated and plopped to the ground below, while the other half turned to dust, but it was not finished. The remains of the paper on the ground suddenly turned into a tiny sapling, which signified that Naruto had the sacred bloodline of the Senju. Naruto started laughing and stuck his tongue out at Hiruzen, nah I got 3 affinities. Hiruzen huffed in annoyance while Hashirama cleared his throat to gain their attention. You're full of surprises my son, not only did you get the wood release, you also have a water affinity like Tobirama's. Hashirama saw the excited look on Naruto's face, no, you will not learn how to use wood release until after the other 2 elements are mastered. Naruto pouts and Hiruzen decided to get payback by sticking his tongue at Naruto. Now, before you begin learning how to control your affinities, can you tell me how far you are on chakra control? Water walking. Naruto and Hiruzen said. Hashirama nods, Naruto I want you to take a leaf and try to take the water out of it. Hiruzen I want you to try and make a leaf smolder and turn to ash. If you feel tired, rotate on your chakra control, physical exercise, and taijutsu. Hi. The two boys do as told while Hashirama goes back to the office. Tobirama stayed and watched Naruto and Hiruzen while Mito made lunch. So for the next 3 hours, the boys rotated in between their assigned tasks, then headed in for lunch, which was homemade ramen. "You make the best ramen, Mom," Naruto said between mouthfuls. "Thank you, Naruto. Father might not approve, but I want you and Hiruzen to head out and mingle a little after lunch. The academy should be out for a break by then." Tobirama interrupted, "I agree, in fact I will show you to the future clan heads. Remember, Naruto, Hiruzen, that your allies come before the mission." Naruto smiled, because the lives we save will lead to a brighter future. Mito laughed as Tobirama banged his head on the table, muttering something about like father like son. Chapter 2. Water Release. Water Dragon Bullet Technique. Naruto performed 2 hand signs and produced a massive water dragon from nothing but the water molecules in the air. Hiruzen stared at the incoming jutsu calmly while doing some hand signs to make an earth-style wall which successfully blocked the technique. Not deterred in the slightest, Naruto and Hiruzen ended their techniques, then ran at each other and initiated another Taijutsu bout, Hiruzen with a monkey fist which he learned from his father and Enma, while Naruto used a mix of the Senju and Uzumaki styles. The monkey fist was a playful form which used acrobatics to confuse the enemy on where the next strike would land. Naruto's style flowed like a river, yet was stiff and uniform like that of the earth. It has been 2 years and during that time, Hiruzen and Naruto progressed very well, each had a grasp on their affinities and would master it by time they turned 12, their gravity seals were level 6 of 10 and their Taijutsu needed some refinement. Naruto and Hiruzen were now 8 years of age, Naruto stood at 3 foot 10 while Hiruzen stood at 3 foot 8, both were fighting in a version of their father's armor. Hiruzen ducked under a punch, then grabbed the offending arm and put Naruto into an armbar. Naruto countered with a knee to the stomach, which loosened the grip enough where Naruto performed a suplex. Hiruzen managed to catch himself and backflip into his ready position, while Naruto took a breath and created a small film of water beneath his feet so he could skate towards Hiruzen. Surprised at this, Sarutobi tried jumping away to find his feet stuck in place, thanks to earth and cuffs. As Naruto went for a haymaker, Hiruzen used a hiding like a mole technique to go subterranean, then pop up behind Naruto and launched a large great fireball. Feeling the heat, Naruto substituted with a nearby training dummy. As they went to attack again, Hashirama's voice stopped them in their tracks. "Hold, my students, you have been going on for over an hour now, very impressive for your age." "Thanks, sensei." Both said. "Did you take the gravity seals off at all?" Hashirama was impressed when they shook their heads. "No, amazing, even with the heavy armor and the gravity seals, they were moving at impressive speed and showed great stamina in that spar. I think Naruto is ready." "Dusan?" Naruto questioned as he saw Hashirama space out. "Sorry my son, just lost in thought is all. It seems close to lunchtime, go on you two, meet up with your friends at the academy." As Naruto was about to run off, Hashirama stopped him. "Naruto, I believe you are ready to learn the basics of the wood release, meet back here after lunch, okay?" "Hi, thanks Tusan." Hashirama nodded, then shunshined to his office to get more paperwork done and to inform Mito that Naruto was ready for his trip to Yuzu. "Let's go Naruto, maybe we can get Danzo, Hamura and Kaharu to join us at the local dango shop." "Hi, but shouldn't we wash up first? I smell like an Inyazuka." Hiruzen laughed but spoke after calming down, "Remember sensei's lesson about what this armor means? Hi, it's to show our status and that we earned the right to wear our armor due to hard work. Not only that, but to show that we each carry the will of fire. Enough stalling, let's go." Both shunshined to the academy grounds, which took many off guard, but they soon waved and said hello. Naruto and Hiruzen waved back and walked to a group of 3 individuals underneath a nearby tree. Each was the same age as Naruto and Hiruzen. The Muramidakado stood 3 foot 8 and wore a simple black outfit with a grey armor which protected the chest, shoulders and outer thighs, arm guards, a dull green scarf, a pouch strapped to his waist with bandages, a kunai holster on his upper right leg, and shinobi sandals. He had short, slightly spiky black hair with tan skin and wore glasses. The hairy Utatane was the same height as Hamura and wore a simple black outfit, a grey breastplate, arm guards, fishnet tights with a skirt over it, a pouch strapped to her back with bandages, and regular shinobi sandals. She had fair skin, dark eyes, and black hair which were pulled back in a twin bun, locked by a traditional Japanese hairpin with 2 pearls dangling off the side. Danzo Shimura stood an inch taller than Hamura and Kaharu and wore the same armor as the two, but had a shuriken holster on his right upper leg and a pouch tied to his waist with bandages. He had shaggy black hair and brown eyes, as well as a cross-shaped scar on his chin. Naruto and Hiruzen met them 2 years earlier when Tobirama introduced them to each of the future clan heads, and after they talked to each other, a bond was formed which made each vow to surpass the other. "Well, look who it is, the 2 boys who are getting trained by Hokage-sama himself. I will surpass you too if it's the last thing I do." Danzo said, which earned a punch in the shoulder from Kaharu. Now Danzo, there's no need to be jealous. Kaharu turned towards Hiruzen and Naruto and smiled. So, I take it we're heading to that dango shop I love. Yep. Amura cursed, damn it, looks like I owe you another 20 ryo Danzo. Told you so, fork it over boy. Kaharu stood and stretched her back, which made popping sounds. Enough talk, dango now. The group nodded and put their hands on Naruto or Hiruzen's shoulders and left the area in 2 puffs of smoke. Daisuke's dango. The group arrived at the front of the store and headed inside. This made a bell jingle to let Daisuke know the customers have arrived. Danzo found a table where all of them could sit at and waited for Daisuke, or one of the waiters or waitresses, to take their order. I gotta ask, how can you walk around and work with all that armor on? Hamura said. Hiruzen and I have trained our bodies since age 5, us wearing the armor is like a rite of passage in our clans. Hiruzen continued, for a clan member to get their armor, one must prove that they are ready by sparring with the current clan head. If we manage to get a hit on them or show that our skills have greatly improved, then we are considered full clan members. And if you don't pass the test? Naruto's eyes grew stern and cold, which shocked Danzo, Hamura, and Kaharu as they never saw the side of him. Hiruzen only did when they sparred. We are cast out of the clan and have to live on our own for 6 months. After that period of time, the trial is taken again. If a person does not pass, then they are banished and have to denounce the clan name. That's insane. Why would your clans do such a thing? Kaharu said. Danzo spoke up, think back to what era the Sarutobi and Senju clan went through and what the status of the villages are now. Only the strongest survive. Hamura quietly stated. Hiruzen and Naruto nodded and were about to start another topic when Daisuke came over to take their orders. Ah, Senju-sama, Sarutobi-sama, sorry for the wait, can I take your orders? Just Naruto please, I will have 2 orders of Mitarashi dango and green tea please. Hiruzen will be fine Daisuke, I will have what Naruto is having. Kaharu, Danzo, Hamura, can I get you anything? Kaharu smiled, you should know us by now Daisuke, we all get the same thing. Daisuke chuckled, then shook his head, right, I keep forgetting in my old age. I will get right on that. Daisuke was an elderly gentleman, he stood 5'7" and wore grey pants with a black shirt and an apron to cover his front side. He had grey hair which was balding, tan skin with liver spots and deep blue eyes. The shop was small and Spartan in design. There were only 8 tables which could seat a range of 2 to 6 people, a wooden counter on the right end of the shop with a cash register, the kitchen was behind that. The front of the store had a window which people could look inside. As they waited for their food, conversation was brought up on the academy and what they were learning. It was here Naruto and Hiruzen saw how much different their training was. Well, when we joined 2 years ago they had us do minor physical exercises and showed us how to unlock our chakra with some basic affinity work. Now we work on taijutsu and work on what we already learned, not to mention the boring history lessons. Hamura said. That's really laid back to what we had to do. Toussaint tortured Hiruzen and I with his training. Danzo scoffed, it couldn't have been that bad, you're standing here all healthy. Hiruzen started listing the injuries he had thanks to Hashirama's training. Since I started training, I have had my arms broken, pulled muscles, severe chakra exhaustion, internal bleeding, and a cracked skull. Naruto, you're up. Naruto smirked, let's see, chakra exhaustion, compound fracture on my left leg, 2 broken ribs, major concussion from falling off a tree, I could list more if you want. Oh yeah, I almost drowned once doing water walking. That was a good day. Danzo, Hamura and Kaharu looked at the 2 in shock, but Hamura got the courage to speak up. Okay guys, joke's over, really funny. Naruto and Hiruzen gave them cold stares which made him look at Danzo and Kaharu. Shit, they ain't lying. Danzo clenched his fists underneath the table. I will surpass you Sarutobi, Senju, I will surpass you, then beat you into the ground. Daisuke interrupted his thoughts, here is your food, enjoy and do stop by again. Training ground. After lunch, everybody went their separate ways. Danzo, Hamura, and Kaharu went back to the academy, Hiruzen went back home to get more training, and Naruto arrived at the training ground he was at this morning. When Naruto arrived, Hashirama was there patiently waiting in a meditative position with silver chakra outlining his body and strange markings on his face. They were around and under his eyes, as well as one in the middle of his forehead reminiscent of a third eye. Sugoi. Hashirama heard this and smiled, letting the chakra and lines dissipate, then opened his eyes and motioned for Naruto to sit beside him. Naruto did as told. Sage mode, that is what you just saw my son, in due time I will teach you to achieve such a feat, but you aren't ready for such a task. Naruto pouted but remembered what he was here for, show me how to grow a tree Toussaint. Well, that's easy, all you have to do is plant a seed, add water and watch it grow. Hashirama joked. Baka Toussaint. I meant wood release. Someone needs to learn how to take a joke, but I digress. Hashirama reached into his robes and pulled an acorn out of a hidden pouch. This was handed to Naruto, who took it, confusion etched onto his face. Tell me, Naruto, what is that acorn from? The tree. Hashirama face palmed. I deserved that one. What kind of tree, Naruto? Oak. Very good, it seems those readings have done you some good. Now, this acorn can grow into a large tree over many years. You, however, are going to manage to do this in seconds. But how? If a tree gets planted in the ground and needs water to Hashirama smiled. I see you figured it out, as well as why I focused on your affinities. Water and earth needs to be combined in order to do this. Wait, that means Kentanai-san should be able to do this, right? Wrong. Combining the elements is extremely difficult, almost impossible without someone helping. Think of a collaboration jutsu. The wood release bloodline only makes it so we can combine the elements to a finite point to achieve the seemingly impossible. Hashirama put his hands out with the palm facing up. Naruto watched in awe as in each hand, a separate element appeared. On the right hand, a rock formed, whereas on the left, a small bowl of water. Hashirama then clenched them together and concentrated, which produced a green glow. After a second he parted his hands to show a seedling. Hashirama took this and planted it into the ground in front of him, then placed his right hand on the spot and focused. A couple seconds later the ground cracked and a small sapling was born. Whoa, so awesome. Naruto said with glee. What I did will only happen with many years of intense training, my son, but for now we must focus on the basics. I want you to take that acorn in your hand and try to make it start to bud without saturating it or crushing it. You need to find the right mix of water and earth. Naruto nodded. This shouldn't be too hard, all I have to do is concentrate. Naruto held the acorn in his right hand, palm up, and concentrated. Nothing happened for the first 5 minutes, but soon a green glow engulfed the acorn. Another minute passed and it blew up with a splash of water which got Naruto wet and made Hashirama laugh. I forgot to mention that everyone's mixture is different. Try meditation while doing this exercise, as it should help you focus. Hi. Naruto tried again, but this time while meditating. In his head, Naruto muttered a mantra to help focus his thoughts. Balance earth and water, make the acorn grow. Balance earth and water, make the acorn grow. A silent 5 minutes passed when a crack is heard. Hashirama smiled, and Naruto did as well when he opened his eyes. Near the top of the acorn, a split formed where a small green stalk was sticking out of. Yada. Hashirama patted Naruto on the back. Good job, my son. When you can make the acorn fully disappear, only then will you be ready for the next step, planting a seed then growing it. But how do you make a forest without seeds, Toussaint? Good question, Naruto, but it has a simple answer which I'm sure you can figure out. What is one thing all living beings use? Chakra. Wait, I only thought humans had chakra. Senjutsu, the energy found in nature itself, is rumored to mix with our own chakra every time we use a jutsu. In small amounts, this chakra is not harmful to us, but in large amounts one can turn to stone. Naruto quirked an eyebrow, but how did you not turn to stone, Toussaint? Hashirama smiled and ruffled Naruto's hair. That, my son, is for another day. Continue with your training. If you need me, I will be at the office. I will have Mito check up on you throughout the day. Naruto nodded and got to work. When he realized he didn't have any acorns, a small burlap sack suddenly hit him in the face. Naruto caught the bag as it fell and looked toward Hashirama with a smirk. It would take Naruto 6 months to complete the first step, but in this time, he, Hiruzen, Danzo, Kaharu, and Homura did some training together. The 3 academy students got a taste of how harsh Naruto and Hiruzen's training was during those months. Once the 6 months passed, it was time for Naruto and Mito to head off to Yuzu so that Naruto could get training on his Kinjutsu, Fuinjutsu, and Uzumaki Jutsu. The trip would be a year-long ordeal, but also a time for mother and son bonding. Uzukage office. The Uzukage office was like that of Konoha's. It had pictures of the past cages on the wall, a desk in the middle of the room with paperwork strewn about, and a massive window where one could look down upon the village of Yuzu. The room had a couch and multiple chairs for people to sit in. The knock was heard on the door, and the Uzukage tells whomever to enter. She smiled when Mito and Naruto came in. "Parent, so good to see you." Mito said, and both hugged each other, which confused Naruto. "Ah-san, how do you know the Uzukage?" "Silly Naruto, she is my mother." Naruto smiled and bowed. "A pleasure to meet you, Uzukage-sama." Karen was 50 years of age and had the same eyes and hairstyle as Mito, but in a high ponytail. She stood at 5'10" and was dressed in cage attire, a white kimono with blue waves and whirlpools on it with a simple black suit underneath, as well as sandals. It seems Hashirama instilled modesty into the boy. "Come, I will take you on a tour of the village." "Excuse me, Uzukage-sama, is Kentanai-san around anywhere?" Karen nods. "Yes, he should be at home with Naomi, those two have become quite the couple." Mito smiled. "I remember the letters, my eldest son is growing up so fast I cannot wait for the grandkids." "Ah-san, I didn't need to hear that, can we go now, Uzukage-sama?" Just call me Karen for now on Naruto, it's a lot easier. She ruffled Naruto's hair, plus, we're family. Naruto nodded and Karen soon started a tour of Yuzu, the first stop being where Kenta and Naomi lived. As they walked to their destination, Naruto took in the sights. Buildings were like that in Konoha, but had an Uzumaki spiral on each of them to show their allegiance. Rivers ran through the island with bridges to let people traverse over, and there were trees which were dotted across the land. All in all, it was almost an exact replica of Konoha, as if the village itself was modeled after Yuzu. Karen, why does Yuzu and Konoha look so similar? I'm sure your father told you about the Uzumaki helping to found Konoha, yes? Naruto nodded. Well, at that time, the village was in its infancy stage, and the way to set up the village was hard to agree on. Eventually, we all came to a decision and chose Yuzu as a template for which to work on. Mito smiled at this, then paused as she saw Naruto grew tense. Naruto, son, what's the matter? Naruto hissed and grasped his head in pain, then dropped to his knees. Karen and Mito noticed that Naruto's eyes were darting around, looking at certain places in the village. As they were about to render aid, Kenta showed up and gasped seeing Naruto's condition. Shit, Ka-san, Karen-sama, Naruto managed to awake his sensor abilities, and they seem strong at that, possibly Tobirama's level. My home isn't far, help me get Naruto inside. Both nodded and grabbed Naruto, who was shuddering and mumbled incoherently, then followed Kenta to his home. Kenta was age 16 and stood 6 foot tall, and wore a light blue kimono with a simple white suit underneath. The Yuzu spiral and Senju symbol was emblazoned on the back. As he burst through the door, Naomi wanted to ask what was wrong and gasped at Naruto's state. So, he awakened them too. Kenta nodded, quickly, put Naruto on the couch. Naomi, can you put my brother in a medically induced coma for now? Hi. Naomi was a cute woman who had a petite face, shoulder-length red hair, brown eyes, fair skin, and wore the same as Kenta did. She was 17 years of age and stood at 5'7". Doing as Kenta told, Naruto was placed on the couch in the family room where Naomi put a green glowing hand over Naruto's forehead. After a couple seconds, Naruto stopped shivering and fell into a peaceful slumber. Is Naruto going to be alright? Mito worriedly asked. Hi Ka-san, he will. I awoke my sensor abilities a year after you left, but my symptoms were not as severe. I'm guessing Naruto suffered from information overload, am I correct Naomi-chan? Hi, and if I didn't put him in a coma then Naruto would have likely gone brain dead. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news Mito-sama, Karen-sama. Mito simply nodded and walked over to Naruto to give comfort, there was still a pained expression on his face. Kenta sighed and put a reassuring hand on his mother's back, come, I will discuss things in the kitchen over some tea. Mito nodded and kissed Naruto's forehead before heading to the kitchen and sitting down, the others followed. As Kenta was getting the tea ready, Mito thought back on Tobirama's sensor ability, and her eyes widened at why Naruto responded in such a way. Tobirama could sense other people's chakra and managed to distinguish others that way, no wonder my son had such a traumatic experience. Let us not forget that he might have your sensor abilities as well, my daughter, if that's the case, then emotions mixed in with the information on chakra type would be a lot to overcome. Karen said. Naomi added onto that, Kenta can only sense people from a short distance, but I suspect that Naruto might have been able to sense the entire island. What? Kenta yelled, almost dropping the teacup in his hand, such a feat should be impossible, to hone a sensor ability like that would take years, a lifetime maybe. Heh, if that's the case then my brother's got a lot of work to do. Indeed. Mito whispered and looked back to Naruto and sighed. Get well soon Naruto. A couple minutes later, Kenta served the tea, and the four began to discuss Naruto's training over the next year. 6 months would be dedicated to Kenjutsu, Uzumaki Jutsu, and Fuinjutsu, each section getting 2 months. The last 6 months would be politics, controlling that sensor ability, and culminating everything together in a final test of strength. The four knew that by the end of the year, Naruto would be a force to be reckoned with and a great asset in the war that was threatening to approach. The conversation lasted over 2 hours and would have been longer if footsteps didn't interrupt them, followed by a groan. Damn, my head feels like it went through a blender. Naruto looked sheepishly at the people in front of him, okay, what's with the confused stares? Naruto, I put you in a medically induced coma, you shouldn't have waked for another 2 days at least. Said a baffled Naomi. I did so to calm the information overload from your sensor abilities unlocking. Yes, that explains the emotions I felt, not to mention about half the damn island. Please tell me we're going to work on that area. Kenta choked on his tea, half the island. Well brother, you never cease to amaze me, what's next, you going to tell me you got father's bloodline? Naruto chuckled nervously and rubbed the back of his head which made Mito laugh and the others' eyes widen in shock. Damn it, that's it Naruto, no more surprises for your older brother got it. Ah, you're just jealous, it took me 6 months just to get the first step down, I suspect another 6 months for the second step. As for the final step in mastering the wood release, unsure on that one really. Mito choked on her tea this time. Son, it took your father a year just to get the first step from the stories I'm told. Didn't he tell you this? Oh, so that's why he looked all glum when I got that step done, ha, I can't wait to rub that in his face. Perrin palmed her face, unbelievable. And so the year-long ordeal began. Like planned, the first 6 months were split into 2-month sections. Naruto's first sensei was an elderly woman who used a cane to get around. Her name was Yuzuki and she stood at 5'4", had grey hair which was tied in a single bun, and her eyes were an emerald green. This was Naruto's Fuinjutsu sensei. Although old, he would soon come to realize that Yuzuki was a caring old woman who wasn't afraid to put her foot down. One such time was 2 weeks into the training when Naruto complained about not advancing to seal making. Yuzuki-sensei, can we go on to making seals now? I've been improving my calligraphy for 2 weeks now. Now sonny, what did I tell you about the dangers of seals? One wrong stroke can produce a dead bloke. Yeah, I got your lesson sensei. Naruto said in a tone which Yuzuki did not approve of, so she took her cane and whacked it across Naruto's face. Ow. What was that for? Don't take that tone with me, youngling, unless you want to see just how feared us Uzumaki are in Fuinjutsu. I can put you in a coma, or I can make your body turn to ash. What will be your pick? Naruto gulped. I think I'll continue working on my lesson sensei. Good student. Oh, and one more thing. Yuzuki smacked Naruto upside the head again. One more outburst, youngling, and I'll tell your mother why you were barred from my teachings. Naruto nodded and quickly got back to work. Crazy old coot, glad she can't hear my thoughts. Seals, youngling, you can't hide from me, you whippersnapper. Naruto cursed as he got smacked with the cane again. It would be a long 2 months, but by time it was over, Yuzuki congratulated Naruto on becoming a beginner level in sealing. For Uzumaki standards there were 4 levels: beginner, expert, master, and grandmaster. The 3rd and 4th month was spent on Uzumaki ninjutsu, which was a breeze thanks to him having Tobirama's water affinity. He was trained by a middle-aged man called Daisuke. He stood 6 foot tall, had short red hair, black pupilless eyes. When Daisuke learned about Naruto having Tobirama's affinity to water, he couldn't be more pleased and knew that a lot would get done in the 2 months. In all, Naruto learned 6 new jutsu, but the one he loved the most was the first one he mastered, in which he only needed to use one hand seal. Alright Naruto, our 2 months are almost up. I heard you were working on one of the jutsu I taught you and was wondering how you were coming along with it. Naruto grinned, prepared to be amazed. Daisuke-sensei. Naruto does one hand sign and proclaimed Uzumaki's secret technique. Maelstrom of Destruction. Naruto threw his hands out towards the small outcropping of trees near the training ground he has used for the last 2 months. Soon, a whirlpool formed around the trees, spinning so fast that the wind produced make said trees sway violently side to side. Naruto clasped his hands together and yelled, then watched as the whirlpool enclosed on the trees, turning them into toothpicks. Naruto doesn't end there as he threw his hands outward again, which made the whirlpool destabilize, launching the wooden shrapnel in many directions. After the display was done, he looked over and laughed at Daisuke's amazed face. I don't believe it, one hand sign to do a jutsu that was only meant to be a C rank, but the way you used it could classify it as a B, maybe A rank. Naruto nodded. I know the jutsu was only meant to hold a person in place or use it for defense, but I realized that it could become so much more, hence why I worked tirelessly on this one. I wonder how it would work on groups of people. Daisuke shivered. I don't want to know, and you definitely are a senju, alright, as that had to take a lot of chakra, and in Uzumaki as you made your own variant of the jutsu. How do you feel? Are you tired at all? Naruto shakes his head. I still feel like I am at full tank. Why, is that a problem? Daisuke's mouth hung open. I know the Uzumaki is known for its large chakra pools, but I guess being part senju skyrocketed that to the point where you can crank out high-level jutsu with minimal effect. Naruto rubbed his nose. I'm awesome, mom is going to be so proud. News soon went around Yuzu about Naruto creating a new variant of the Uzumaki Maelstrom Jutsu and even added it to their repertoire, classifying it as an A rank after seeing it demonstrated. Mito, Karen, Kenta, and Naomi could not be happier for Naruto. The last 2 months was spent with a middle-aged man called Kenshin, where he taught Naruto about the Uzumaki stances of Kenjutsu, as well as some attacks that sent out a wave of chakra to decimate opponents that were caught off guard. Kenshin stood 6'3" and wore a variant of samurai armor used in Iron Country. He had long black hair which was tied in a high ponytail, and black eyes. Rumor was that Kenshin was a retired samurai from Iron Country, but there was no evidence to prove such a claim. This training was the most brutal as Kenshin was very strict in his training, and every day Naruto came back bruised, cut up, and looking disheveled, which Mito joked on him about. Naruto was too tired to even care. It was the first week into training when he found out how strict Kenshin could be. Naruto stood in front of Kenshin, both wielded Bakken as Naruto-sensei deemed him not ready for actual swordplay yet. Watch closely Naruto as I show you one of the stances of the raging tide. Naruto nodded and watched intently. First spread your feet about 2 feet apart with your left foot forward while your right foot stays behind. Next, bend your knees a little and then place your hands near your crotch area to where you are holding your blade slightly to the right. Henshin got into the stance to show Naruto how it would look like. But this stance you have a wide range of motion, you can block blows from overhead to both your sides, below the belt, while attacking in a wide range of areas. This stance is meant to flow like that of the river, but be fierce and fast moving like the tide. Now, can you show me the stance please? Naruto nodded and does as Kenshin said, but he got hit in the right knee with sensei's bakken, which made Naruto grunt in pain. Your feet are not properly spaced apart and you are crouching too low, again. Kenshin disciplined. Naruto attempted again, but this time gets hit on his right forearm which earned another hiss of pain. Your sword angle is too wide, bring it in a little, and you are crouched too low, again. Naruto repeated this over and over again, and for every mistake, Kenshin hit him with his bakken, but after 45 minutes he eventually got the stance and smiled. Now what sensei? Naruto said, which garnered a hit to the left side of his ribs. Ouch. What was that for? You are not focused on your opponent, keep all senses open and look for where your opponent is going to strike. Naruto hardened his glare at Kenshin as he looked for where he would attack. Naruto saw him twitch his hand to the left a little and thought that is where he would hit. Wrong. As Naruto went to block left he was hit in the right side of the ribs, making him hiss in pain. The enemy will always try to fool you with his body language, look into his eyes and feel where he will strike next. Naruto got in his stance again and looked at both Kenshin's body language and eyes. He saw an image in his head and brought his sword up to block and smiled as he heard wood on wood, then is found flying across the dojo courtesy of a kick to the stomach. Naruto groaned as he stood and rubbed his stomach. Ninjutsu is not only an art of the sword, but a mix of taijutsu as well, remember that. An enemy will always take an opening for its full worth, get in your stance and try again. Naruto bowed, hi sensei. This went on for 2 months, but Naruto was happy for his training, as it made him pay attention to his surroundings and to always stay on guard, even though he wandered around Yuzu. Kenshin said to always expect the unexpected. After the 2 months Kenshin was happy to say that Naruto had a good grasp on the raging tide and would become a master of it if he practices it for years to come. Kenshin was so impressed that he decided to give Naruto a present. Our 2 months are at an end and I'm impressed with your skill thus far. Thank you sensei. Naruto said. Kenshin smiled as he led Naruto to the back of the dojo and down a flight of stairs into a room that has light shining on one object which was on a pedestal. It was a katana whose 3-foot sheath is adorned with silver waves of the ocean, while the color of it is bluish-white. The handle was wrapped in a blue and white strap with a red gem on the butt of said handle. Naruto looked at the katana with adoration which Kenshin noticed. This is the Raging Whirlpool, a katana that chooses its wielder, the last one being my sensei, but alas, it does not call to me and I have tried to find a person ever since. Naruto pointed to himself, and you think that person is me? Kenshin nodded, open your heart and mind Naruto, let it call out to you. Naruto closed his eyes and steadied his breathing and soon he heard a whisper. Come to me child, hold me in your hands, I have been dormant for far too long. Naruto's eyes snapped open and, in a trance-like manner, walked up to the katana and grabbed its hilt. As soon as he did, a blue aura came out from the sword and wrapped around Naruto. Kenshin smiled knowing that a wielder was found at last, but wondered what was happening between the two. Naruto found himself in a sea of white and called out, is anybody here? The same voice that he heard moments ago reverberated in the space, come to me child, let me see who I chose to wield my blade. Naruto walked to the voice to find a 5'8" tall woman in a blue and white kimono, with the patterns of waves on it. She is barefoot and has middle back-length silver hair. Her eyes are blue like the ocean and have a smile like that of an angel. Naruto gasped at the sheer beauty of the person in front of him. Ah, a young lad wishes to wield me I see, what is your name child? Naruto bowed, my name is Naruto Senjum laddie, and I am honored that you chose me. My name is Anya, the spirit of the ocean, and of this katana you are currently holding. Before you go I must know what you wish to do with this blade. Choose carefully, choose the wrong answer and I will kill you then send your body out to sea. Naruto gulped and thought deeply, I wish to wield this blade in the hopes of protecting all that I hold dear and will use this blade to strike down any foe that dares harm them. I wish to carry on my father's will of fire and protect Konoha until my dying breath. Anya smiled, you choose wisely young Naruto. Use me well and let your enemies feel the rage that which the ocean delivers. The area flashed white and Naruto found himself still holding the hilt of the katana. He took it off the pedestal and unsheathed it to find that the blade is a silver white and is 2.5 feet long. Naruto took a few test swings and found that it was perfectly balanced. His movements flowed like that of an ocean or river current. Naruto sheathed it and affixed it to his back, then smiled at Kenshin. It seems that it spoke to you and accepted you as its next holder. Kenshin said but was not expecting what would come out of Naruto's mouth. Vanya is her name sensei, the spirit of the ocean. I will use this blade to slay any enemy that harms the will of fire and Konoha and show them how much rage the ocean can make. Kenshin just chuckled and ruffled Naruto's hair. Come on my boy, we need to tell you mother about your new toy. Chapter 3. Mito was catching up with Karen at Kenta's home. He and Naomi were out instructing some of the academy students. Mother and daughter chatted happily about the years they missed while sipping on sake. Some serious topics came up though, like the crumbling borders in the elemental nations and the battle with Madara and not knowing if he was still alive or not. Their reminiscing period was interrupted by a knock at their door which Mito got up from the kitchen table to see who it was. She smiled when the people were Naruto and Kenshin. Mito-sama, your son has a new toy and Yuzuki-sama, I think you would be happy to know that the sword has found a new owner. Kenshin stressed the word sword, but Karen got the meaning. Karen quickly got out of her seat and rushed up to Naruto and engulfed him in a hug. Oh, I'm so proud of you, to be the new holder of the raging whirlpool is a feat in itself, it's a very finicky sentient being. If I recall, in its history only 7 people used it with you being the 8th. Mito was shocked, she heard of the legendary blade which had been passed down from Uzumaki to Uzumaki ever since the clan was founded. Hi, her name is Vanya, the spirit of the ocean. Naruto had to pause due to a slight headache and blink in shock as Vanya spoke. I don't mind if you give my name out to other Uzumaki, but reveal myself to those outside of these walls, and I will cast you aside like a piece of driftwood which has floated the ocean for eternity. Hi, Vanya, my deepest apologies. No need to speak aloud Naruto, just think what you are going to say, less people will call you crazy that way. Kenshin snickered, I take it she didn't like you revealing her name my student. Yeah, Naruto said while rubbing his temples, not one bit, and she threatened to cast me aside like a piece of driftwood which floated on the sea for eternity. Mito, Kenshin, and Karen winced when Naruto said that, the punishment didn't sound pleasant at all. Well Naruto, I must be off, remember to keep on practicing and always keep your blade and mind sharp. Expect the unexpected, right sensei? Kenshin nodded and bowed to Mito and Karen, then left the home to go back to his dojo. Mito motioned Naruto inside and to sit at the table so they could chat about his next 6 months of training. Before we begin, do you mind showing us Raging Whirlpool? Karen asked as she was curious to know what the blade looked like. I must decline Yuzuki-sama, a sword is a weapon of war, not a showpiece. Naruto said with a serious tone. Mito was impressed, it seems Kenshin instilled morals into you as well my son. Enough about that though, your last 6 months of training awaits, and unlike last time, it won't be broken up. Karen continued, in these 6 months you will be learning politics by yours truly, Kenta and your mother will help on your sensor abilities, and the rest is up for you to decide. But you catch on quick, yes there is one last thing for you to do before the 6 months is up. You will face an opponent of my choosing to test you in all that you have learned over the time spent here. Naruto smiled, sounds like fun, so when does my training start? You have a couple days off, head to the academy and introduce yourself, maybe help your brother with the kids. Karen said. Naruto bowed, it shall be done Yuzuki-sama. You're never going to call me Karen are you? Sorry, Yuzuki and her cane literally beat honorifics into my skull. Karen burst out laughing, it took her a couple minutes to calm down, after she wiped some tears away, Karen shook her head. Let's go, I need to get to the office and do watch out for Yuzuki, once she targets someone with that cane, she doesn't let anyone go. Great. Naruto rolled his eyes and left the house with a wave goodbye, a short while later, Karen headed to the office leaving Mito all alone. As much as I hate to admit it, Naruto, Hiruzen, you might be our key to winning this upcoming war get strong my son. Yuzu Academy. And that is how Yuzu helped found Konoha, any questions? Kenta said, but before he could answer any, Naruto cool. Some of the students said then realized that Naruto was around their age. Now what brings you here my baby brother? Naruto shrugged, Karen told me to assist you in teaching, maybe help them a bit. Your age, how can you help? Said a smug civilian. Nai-san, what do they need help with the most? Kenta hums in thought then snapped his fingers, ah yes there is something you can help with, some of these students are having trouble with the tree walking exercise. Hands, feet, or fingertips. Kenta shook his head in mirth, these are academy students Naruto, we are not using father's training method due to potential injuries. Naruto-san? Another student asked. Yes. How do you move with all that armor and how bad was your training? Naruto smiled and told the class about his training regime that his father gave and also the injuries that he has revived as a result. The students were a little jealous, but their eyes said otherwise. Like Danzo, Hamura and Kaharu, the class looked at Naruto as a point with alright everyone, outside to the training grounds so that Naruto-sensei can show you how to tree climb. Kenta said which made Naruto face fault, but he quickly recovered. Nai-san, I'm only 8 years old, which is way too early to be a sensei. You're teaching, are you not? Touché. Naruto left it at that, and the Senju brothers lead the class outside. Once there, Naruto stood next to a tree and waited for everyone to pay attention. After a couple of minutes, the students were still talking, which made Naruto let off some of his killing intent. Kai. It instantly shut the class up and made them shiver in fear. Naruto. No killing intent, these are kids in the academy. Kenta scolds, but Naruto snapped back. Kenta, you may be 8 years older than I, but these students need to learn that their profession and the threat of encroaching war mean that the people they see today could be a cold corpse on the ground tomorrow. Some of the students gulped while others already were talked about this thanks to their parents. Kenta tried to stop Naruto, but he continued on. New lesson, class. Look at the people around you, these will be your comrades if you graduate, these will be the people you protect, and these are the people you would give your life to. Naruto, brother, you are no 8-year-old, what has father instilled in you since I've been gone? Naruto walked up to a student in the front and told him to pull out a kunai, which he did. Naruto shocked the class by grasping the student's hand and brought the kunai up to his jugular. Everyone gasped, even the two people overlooking some distance away. Naruto looked into the student's fear-filled eyes with his cold black ones. Are you ready to take a life? The student's hand was shaky even though Naruto held it in place. Take this kunai in your hand and kill me. Do it. The student broke down in tears and collapsed to the floor, which made Naruto sigh. He felt terrible for doing this, but he knew that this group would freeze in battle. His dose of Kai demonstrated that. Naruto bent to the student's level and lifted his chin up so they were looking eye to eye, though he spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. Kid, what you did wasn't wrong, what you did showed that you see me as an ally and wish not to harm me, correct? The student nodded and Naruto helped him stand up again. Put what you saw into memory, your student showed that he wishes not to strike down one of his own, yet his emotions told me he would die for any one of you. I may be 8 years old, but my father instilled his values onto me, and I'll be damned if I don't live up to what he's taught me. And what are those, Naruto-sensei? A student asked. The will of fire, to look toward the future and keep the past where it belongs. The past, that power is nothing on the battlefield, only your actions dictate the outcome. I will say no more as it's up to you to find your heart, to find what you truly fight for. Naruto took a deep breath and walked over to Kenta, then patted his shoulder in apology and walked to a private training ground. Naruto knew when he had said enough. The students, Kenta, and the two hiding were all silent and watched Naruto walk a short distance, then disappear in a puff of smoke. Nobody said a word as they tried to digest what they heard today, but eventually Kenta spoke. He knew that his students needed some time alone. Class dismissed, and do take my brother's words to heart. As the class walked away, Kenta couldn't help but be inspired by Naruto. My time spent here in peace and solitude has led me astray, my path had wavered. But you, my brother, are the true hope of this world, with your words may my path begin anew. In the bushes a short distance from the academy, Mito and Karen looked at each other with smiles in their faces and nodded to each other. They would have been found if not for a barrier seal to conceal their chakra. Your son is no 8-year-old, I saw young Hashirama out there, Mito, he is truly a gifted individual. Hi, and all those times I thought he was still an innocent 8-year-old kid, beneath that mask is a headstrong shinobi ready to do whatever it takes, and no matter the consequence. Private training ground 2 hours later. Naruto had been rotating between Taijutsu and Kinjutsu katas, chakra control, and attempting the second step to the wood release for the past 2 hours. He was currently meditating, hoping to grow the acorn he planted in the ground. So far, only a small green stalk was produced. It was progress, but not where Naruto wanted to be. You can come out, Kasan, I sense conflicting emotions coming from you. The rustling of tree leaves are heard, then the thump as Mito dropped from the tree she was perched in. Not breaking his concentration, Naruto continued. I suppose you overheard what I said at the academy and are here to punish me. Mito shook her head and sat beside Naruto. No, my son, and yes, Karen and I overheard. Why have you been hiding your true self from us? Why hide it under a mask? Naruto sighed and decided to drop a bombshell. Last year I overheard Toussaint talk with one of his spies that gave daily reports on the villages. I was going to leave and let father have his peace, but the spy said 2 words which made me stay. Mito internally groaned knowing what meeting Naruto was talking about. It was one Hashirama explained to Tobirama, the clan heads, and she after the spy had left. She quickly engulfed Naruto in a hug, now knowing why he pushed himself so hard. Flashback last year, Hokage office. Do you have the report? Hi Hokage-sama, but I bring even worse news than the tensions between the villages. In all honesty, sir, I'm glad you're sitting down. Hashirama leaned back in his chair. The look the spy was giving wasn't a good one, it was one of fear and uncertainty. Seeing that the Hokage was ready, the spy said the news nobody was expecting. Madara Uchiha is alive, Hokage-sama. Hashirama's eyes widened, then he shook his head not believing this. Can you say that again? I'm having a hard time believing that he's still alive. I struck a killing blow. The spy didn't repeat, he just took a scroll out of his vest and placed it on the desk. The information you seek is in there, Hokage-sama, sorry to bring you the terrible news. Hashirama simply nodded, you are dismissed. The spy left via Shunshin just as the Senju opened the scroll. On the parchment was how the villages were handling the tensions, but near the top right of the parchment was a seal. Hashirama added chakra to it and out popped a rough sketch of Madara and some papers detailing the report of the mission. A couple spies managed to trail the Uchiha, but Hashirama knew that they were spotted. Why let them live, Madara? Is this war you're doing? Hashirama slammed his fists on the desk in fury and let out a pulse of silver chakra which cracked the wood in the office and made papers fly around. This pulse mixed with his anger hid Naruto from being sensed. Speaking of Naruto, he took his ear off the door of the Hokage office and clenched his fists in anger. He knew all about Madara thanks to Hashirama's stories as well as books he read. I will reach your level, father, and bring down Madara. If you somehow fail, I will ensure that the Senju line stays strong. Flashback end. Naruto got done telling his tale and got another hug from Mito as a result. They stayed like this for a couple minutes before they broke off. An awkward silence ensued and stayed that way for around 30 minutes. Eventually Mito decided to change the topic. So Naruto, how about working on that sensor ability of yours? Hi Ka-san, and thanks for listening. I just hope father takes the news lightly. I'm sure he'll understand, Naruto. Mito smiled and changed topics. Your sensor ability and how you can feel emotions for people are one and the same, but the trick is to use both at a level where you can detect lies, sense incoming harm, and many other beneficial things. Naruto nodded and listened intently as Mito continued. Now, what I want you to do is close your eyes and feel for my chakra, explain anything you feel or sense from me. Once you get proficient at this, then we'll work on doing it while walking around. Naruto did as told and searched. It took a couple minutes, but he finally found what he was looking for. You're happy, kinda tense, confident, your chakra is calm like water, and what's this red chakra, filled with anger? Oh no, please don't tell me Naruto's found that. Naruto yelled in panic as a roar reached his ears and quickly opened his eyes. Ah-san, Kyuubi is very angry at you. What? I sensed anger and a sense of longing from the Kyuubi. The fox is lonely and wants someone to talk to. I think I sensed sadness as well, such a strange beast. Mito was shocked. She knew sensor abilities could be strong, but to sense another entity inside someone, especially its emotions, that was unheard of. Mito nodded to Naruto, then stood. You shouldn't be training, Naruto, these are your days off, remember? I know, maybe I should put my gravity seal to 0 so I can get used to walking or running without it on. Son, have you ever reduced the gravity seal? Naruto shook his head no. Then I think that's a lovely idea, take your days off to get used to not having weights. I will get a kimono for you to wear instead of that armor. Thanks, Mom. Naruto did some hand signs and his body glowed blue for a second, his gravity seal was now 0. Doing this however made Naruto fall to the ground as he wasn't used to the armor without the seal on. This of course made Mito laugh. Naruto struggled to get up, but he managed. In his mind he was thankful for these days off. The 6 months passed relatively quickly for Naruto. His sensor ability was at a controllable level, but it was far from being mastered. The second step of wood release was accomplished, and he was now working on the final step, learning how to apply everything in the 2 steps into a jutsu. Naruto's skill in Fuinjutsu increased thanks to the help of Mito, Yuzuki and Karen. His Taijutsu was refined, and his Kenjutsu was coming along nicely. Out of the 6 months, the only thing Naruto hated was politics. It was boring, complicated, and to use it properly took a certain finesse which Karen taught him. In the present, Naruto was meditating in the center of the Yuzu Stadium with his armor on, raging whirlpool attached to his back, and his gravity seals up to the proper level. Naruto was now 9 years old and came up to Hashirama's chest in height. His shoulder-length black hair was in a high ponytail. His bangs were separated to either side of his face by a headband with the Senju clan symbol on it. Are you ready to face your opponent, Naruto? I'm confident in my abilities if that's what you mean, Vanya. I hate the fact I might have to use you on a comrade. Silly Naruto, this will be a test to see what you've learned over the past year. The person you'll be fighting will no longer be a comrade, but an enemy. Naruto tried to think otherwise, but he couldn't help but agree with Vanya's words. I guess you're right, wish me luck as I sense everyone coming to watch. You have my blessing, the sea is on your side. Naruto kept on meditating as the stadium filled up. Eventually Naruto sensed his opponent coming and stood to face them. He was not expecting Kenta to be there. Hello Naruto, are you ready to face me? Will you choke and hold back because I'm your brother? Naruto took a deep breath and closed his eyes. When he opened them again, Kenta flinched at the coldness shown. In this arena, you are no longer my brother, all I see is an enemy standing in my way. Prepare yourself Kenta as I won't go easy on you. Kenta nodded, like Naruto, he was dressed in senju armor, but it was green, a tento was strapped to his back. So it shall be, Uzukage-sama if you would. Eren nodded and stood from her seat in the cage box, Mito, Hashirama and Tobirama were with her. You are gathered here today to see Naruto use the skills he learned over the years spent training with various sensei of my choosing. If he passes, then he will be given an Yuzu headband and become an emissary between Konoha and ourselves. Without further delay, Naruto, Kenta, you may commence. Show us what you can do sons, make the Senju clan proud. Hashirama and Mito thought. Kenta and Naruto shifted into their respective taijutsu stances and stared into each other's eyes, the crowd went silent, a cool breeze swept through the arena, and then the situation exploded. Naruto and Kenta rushed towards each other, their fists crashing together which created a small boom as a result, it showed just how strong they were. Naruto ducked under a punch and slid under Kenta's legs, but while doing so he grabbed them and pulled which made Kenta fall to the ground. Not deterred by this, Kenta used his legs and put Naruto in a chokehold, not seeing any other option, Naruto added earth chakra to his fists and slammed them on the ground which created a massive crater and upheaved the earth on the arena floor. The crowd was impressed so far, but it was only the beginning. Water release. Water severing wave. Kenta's eyes widened at the jutsu Naruto produced, he knew a simple earthen wall would not survive this, so he used the hiding like a mole technique to go underground. Naruto smirked as he sensed his brother underground and coming his way. Silly brother, you forgot one thing about me. Kenta cursed underground knowing what that was. My sensor ability far surpasses yours. But that declaration, Naruto sent another earth-enhanced punch to the ground, but instead of the arena floor buckling, Naruto's fist went through the ground and grabbed a hold of Kenta. Naruto pulled him up like a rabbit coming out of a hat. Hey Naruto. Kenta said impaled as he saw Naruto draw back his free hand. Not the face. Naruto ignored him and sent his fist home, a crunch is heard followed by a muffled boom as Kenta's body rocketed into the back wall of the arena. Following up on this, Naruto sent an earth dragon where Kenta landed, the jutsu hit and created a plume of dust which shot high into the air, the wall was heard collapsing soon after. Naruto took a deep breath, then quickly unsheathed his blade and spun around, successfully blocking Kenta's tanto. So, you switched with an earth clone after you hit the wall impressive. Kenta's nose was bent at a weird angle, which signified that it was broke, multiple cuts on his face were bleeding. I clearly underestimated you baby brother, let's see how your kinjutsu is, nah. Kenta and Naruto broke apart and got into their kinjutsu stance, after a couple deep breaths the two launched at each other at high speeds, for those who couldn't keep up, the sparks and sounds of metal hitting metal are the only indication of where Naruto and Kenta were. I'm impressed that Naruto can keep up with Kenta, I wonder if they will take off their weights. Hashirama said then turned to the arena as he heard Naruto scream out in pain. Naruto and Kenta appeared again, and the crowd gasped in shock as they saw Kenta's tanto impaled into Naruto's right thigh. Do you give brother? This injury will cripple your chances at beating me. Naruto grunts in pain, not on your life, this is nothing compared to father's training. Naruto shocked the crowd when he took the butt of his sword and slammed it into Kenta's already broken nose, which made him backpedal and grasp his nose in pain, the tanto still in Naruto's thigh. Said person looked at it and ripped it out, raging whirlpool in his right hand with the tanto in his left. A sizzling is heard and the wound that was made healed up, but it was still sore. Kenta soon dodged right as his tanto flew towards him, then gasped as he watched Naruto get in a stance with his blade glowing blue with yellow lightning sparking from the blade. Tempest storm. Naruto slashed raging whirlpool up and to the left, and an electrified whirlpool of energy left the blade and hit his target, or so he thought. An explosion took place and debris started raining down on the field, Naruto cursed knowing it was blocked, and before he could react, Kenta punched him in the face, which started a brutal beatdown that lasted a minute. Naruto's face was now bloodied and he was on one knee, his sword on the ground in front of him. Kenta chuckled and bent down to pick up raging whirlpool, it would be the mistake which would lead to Kenta's downfall. You took my blade so it's only fair if I use yours against you. Naruto didn't say anything as Kenta grabbed it and was instantly shocked with many volts of electricity, only Naruto heard Vanya's voice. How dare you touch me heathen, Naruto, get your ass over here and take advantage. Naruto decided to attempt the only wood release jutsu he knew, Mito described it to him during training and he managed to complete it before this match. Ram, ox, boar, snake wood release. 4-pillar prison technique. The cracking of the earth is heard and a wooden prison formed around Kenshin. After the technique was done, Naruto was panting a little and retrieved his sword and sheathed it, not taking any chances, Naruto took some seals from the pouch he was wearing and slapped them on the prison. Give up brother, I have you imprisoned and put seals on this to render chakra useless. I feel the drain on my chakra. Good job Naruto, but be thankful I was holding back. Kenta said with Naruto nodding and tapped the prison which made the prison sink back into the ground. The brothers shook hands as the crowd cheered, it drowned out what the two said to each other. Why didn't you take off your weights Nai-san, I could have handled you if I took mine off. Naruto said. Huh, I totally forgot I had those on too late now. Naruto shook his head and playfully hit his brother's shoulder, Baka. Hashirama's voice interrupted them, very well done my sons, but you never released your weights, Kenta, did you forget again? Said person nervously laughed. Figures but I suspect both of you would be on equal terms, Naruto, congratulations on your first wood release jutsu. Thanks, Two-san. I got the second step down in 6 months, Ka-san said it took you a year to do just one. Hashirama face palmed and grumbled, yeah, don't remind me. Anyway, after you get treated at the hospital, we are to meet with Karen and get everything situated, then we leave. Again, great job you two. Suna Kazukiage office. The Nidaime Kazukiage was currently going over reports of his shinobi being attacked by Iwa and Kumo forces, as much as he tried to create a truce with them nothing would work, both cages responded that they wanted his Jinchuriki. The Kazukiage was a bald man and had brown locks of hair at the back of his head. His most distinctive feature was an intricate dragon-shaped tattoo which was tattooed around the top head, with a claw covering his right eye. His attire consisted of a dark-colored kimono held close by a light-colored sash, over which he wore a plain, long-sleeved haori. If my Jinchuriki that would only give a village the advantage in this upcoming war. The problem lies with what action will make everyone snap him. A knock interrupted his musing. Enter. The door opened and the Kazukiage's field officer came in. Ah, just the man I wanted to see, do you have my reports on the defenses of Iwa and Kumo? Hi Kazukiage-sama. The man pulled a scroll from his vest and placed it on the desk, then stood back and bowed. Orders for me Kazukiage-sama. Just keep doing what you do best, dismissed. The officer bowed again and left the office. After the door closed, the Kazukiage opened the scroll and looked over the contents. After 20 minutes of reading he grinned and started laughing. Yes, I can take advantage of this, borders between villages are crumbling, but that doesn't mean that there can be allies in this war. Kumo and Konoha, a treaty they have but all that is writing on a simple piece of paper. The Kazukiage took out a blank piece of paper and started writing orders on it. Once he was done he summoned one of his most respected shinobi. You called Kazukiage-sama. Said man handed the shinobi the orders, do not hesitate, do what must be done, your sacrifice won't be in vain. The shinobi read over the orders and his eyes widened, then he smiled and bowed. He left the office after being dismissed. Iwa Tsuchikage office. The Nidaime Tsuchikage, Mu, was pacing back and forth in his office, waiting for his messenger to report back from Kiri. He and the Nidaime Mizukage had a mutual enmity towards each other. If this war ever broke out, he didn't care about his forces, no, Mu only cared to see that the Mizukage was killed. He would appoint his successor before doing so however. The knock on the door interrupted his thoughts on the ways to kill the Mizukage. Enter. A report Tsuchikage-sama. The spy handed Mu a large scroll, then bowed. Any orders sir? None, you may rest, we can't have Kiri knowing of our plans just yet. Kumo Reikage office. The Nidaime Reikage was a dark-skinned man with a broad flat nose and dark eyes, which had markings underneath them. He had shoulder-length black hair which he wore in a peculiar style, along with a beard which tapered off into a goatee. He also had sideburns which curved inwards, just underneath his eyes. He wore a slight variation of Kumo's modern flak jacket and plated armor that covered his right shoulder. He also had a gold-colored rectangular marking on his nose. The Reikage sighed and looked out his office window to see his bustling village. They had a treaty with Konoha, but with borders strained and the threat of encroaching war he knew that wouldn't last. The fool you were Hashirama Senju, instead of bringing peace by splitting up the Bijuu, you have inadvertently caused the tensions to an upcoming war. All the Bijuu are accounted for except for the great Kyuubi, are you hiding something from me Senju? Did you split the Bijuu so that you could have the strongest of them all? The Reikage chuckled then shook his head, it seems that a treaty is not one at all, just writing on a piece of paper. We will be allies Konoha for now. Kiri Mizukage office. Although Kiri was an isolated village due to them being an island much like Yuzu, they were not safe from the throes of war. The Nidaime Mizukage was impressed though as Yuzu and Konoha was the only two major villages to stay neutral, even though skirmishes have happened between the other villages. The Mizukage was currently looking out the window, down upon his village. Fear, the ultimate enemy. The other villages including myself, wish not to go against the Senju brothers, as well as Hashirama's sons. Rumors have spread of their power, though the youngest is the most enigmatic. The Mizukage turned to the shadows in the corner and smirked. What do you think my successor, you've faced Hashirama in battle before, have you got any information on his youngest? The clanking of armor is heard as the man stepped out of the shadow with his eternal Manjikyu Sharingan active. The light from the window in the office only illuminated his face and part of his black spiky hair. Yes, Hashirama was a challenge to fight. We are the strongest to walk the land after all. We danced and I regrettably admit that my rival beat me at my own game. My actions only made Konoha more powerful. Perhaps, but you did start these tensions, did you not? Madara chuckled, then took a breath. The Sharingan is a wonderful thing, is it not? Implant a few false memories and the nation starts to fall apart. If I can't beat Hashirama one-on-one, then I will wait for the opportune moment to strike. The Mizukage quirked an eyebrow. That speaks of cowardice, Madara. I never took you to be such a man. Madara growled, don't test my patience, boy, do remember whom you talk to. So scary, the Mizukage said sarcastically, which made Madara grit his teeth in anger. You know the plan, until next we meet. Once Madara disappeared, the Mizukage sighed and sat in his chair. He thought about if Madara's plan was truly worth it. The Rakuto Sennin, the Juubi, do these beings even exist or are they just tales told to children at night? Why so fixated on that, Madara? What's your ultimate goal? Maybe the Hokage will have the answer. The Senju was supposedly one of the descendants of the sage. The Mizukage kept looking out the window. As much as he wanted to help Madara with the plan, something bugged him. It felt like the Uchiha would backstab him along the way. After what seemed like an eternity, the Mizukage made his decision. Sorry, Madara, but I always go with my instincts. What if Hashirama and Mito give all chakra to Naruto? And thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel and leave a like if you guys need the next part, comment down, and thanks for watching the video and see you guys in the next video.